Hey, welcome into the live show today. Thank you so much for stopping in. If this is your first time jumping into TechPath here on PBN, welcome aboard. Glad to have you guys. Of course, we are going to drill into some altcoin gems I think you guys are going to find interesting. But better yet, what we're going to do is guide you through the process of how we select them. So the whole idea around some of these gems that we'll be releasing to you today is really kind of the strategy of how to pick tokens. And that's what we're going to dive into. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Let's get into how this works. And one of the things that I often get in terms of questions, especially on whether it's on Twitter or in the DMs or here even on the live shows, is what process do you use? And we've had several questions of how do you acquire these tokens, all that. We'll try to answer as many of those as we can, some of which are a little, I won't say technical, but they're a little bit off limits, I'll say, using that terminology for those of you, because of course we would never, buy a token that we shouldn't be buying out there. That would definitely be wrong. So we wouldn't do that. Never would do that. But we would never tell anybody to do that either. So just remember those things when you're out doing your research, understand where these tokens are, kind of the platforms you can go to get them. For the most part, these are available on traditional exchanges and or through some of the swaps or DEXs. That's kind of what we'll go into and dive in a little deeper. The first thing I want to guide you into is this is something that I do on an ongoing basis, and that is I utilize a tool called Token Metrics. You guys know it, they're a sponsor of the channel. And when I go in and look for tokens, the first step that I want to take a look at is low cap. Now, many people might look at low cap at 25 million or under. 25 million is a lot of our team here in the crypto pit like those kinds of projects that are, these emerging, because it usually reveals a lot of the early stage, much like what you find in startups, early seed round startups. If you can get in on those, whether it's even pre-token or pre-IDO or pre-program, potential offering, that's where you're going to make the biggest amounts of moves. And if you've been watching some of my videos around these very aggressive portfolios, because I have one portfolio that's very specific, high risk, just search high risk on our channel. You'll find a couple of videos about that portfolio. That portfolio this year has been unbelievable. Last count, we were at around 50x on returns. Now, this is a conglomeration of many tokens, many different projects, a lot of different variables, games, DeFi, different types of protocols, a lot of, Rails type projects, meaning a lot of the infrastructure scenarios that are happening with many of these tokens. That was and is really still an ongoing project that I'm doing. It's a science experiment, so to speak, and much like what we'll be introducing to you today is just that. Now, they are market movers. Market movers are when we put these data points together. We'll give you some sentiment analysis from our own Crypto Power Index. It is not investment advice, but it is our research, and we're sharing that with you guys free, absolutely free. We just want to share it with you. If you find it useful and it's something you can use as a tool to help you go out and select these things, great. Let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to show you is how to do, or how I go in about and searching market caps. And this is just very simple. I want to look at a less than. In this particular case, I'm going to go to the 50 million, apply that filter. This will repaint in Token Metrics. There's a variety of different levels of service that you can use in Token Metrics. I use it specifically for the TM grade, just to identify projects that then I go in and double check their work. So I'll look at sentiment on our own data. We'll look at the team, the financing behind these projects. Then we'll make a decision to go in and add them to a portfolio. Some of them will be moderate risk portfolios. Some of them might be high risk portfolio. All of what I'm going to show you today is going to go into my high risk portfolio. Full disclosure, some of these I've already purchased as of today, this filming. So we'll get into it, and I think a lot of people have been talking about the high-risk portfolio going, well, hey, you let us know when you actually buy them and how you actually buy them and all that process. Well, we're going to go through that component. The first thing I want to jump to is a project called Nearpad. Now, Nearpad was identified on Token Metrics, and at first, this was one of those projects that I thought, all right, well, this is an easily, it's a component of Near Protocol. It has an element of Launchpad and DeFi functionality in the Near ecosystem. If you've been watching what's been happening on Near Protocol in terms of growth just in the last 2 to 3 weeks, then you understand why this project is listed. And Near Protocol is one of those that I own and I like it, but Nearpad, definitely a different kind of project. I want to jump over to Nearpad on their Twitter. This is the other thing I'll do, is just take a look at how well they're doing on social media. And usually crypto Twitter is one of the biggest ones. The first thing I noticed here was a December 21st tweet. This is a perfect example of things to understand, especially on crypto Twitter, of where the partnerships are happening. And here you've got Near Protocol, Terra, and of course Aurora and Rose. And remember, Nearpad, right here, what we're talking about. All of this is a partnership that is basically announcing the integration of Terra. So this is going to deploy a new suite of algorithmic decentralized stablecoins. If you've been watching Terra and a lot of what we talk about on Luna, it's one of our big picks of 2022. We think it's going to continue. And of course, if you've followed Do Kwon, you probably should, because he is the guy who is behind Terra Luna. And Do Kwon is, I would say, still one of the top 5 minds in blockchain out there. So Nearpad, definitely a good one. And I'm going to jump over to the ranking here on Nearpad. And here we go. Let's pull this one up real quick. All right, so this is our CPI. And what I did here was I pulled a little bit of data over here from Token Metrics. We applied that against our sentiment analysis, and then we ran this on both sentiment and amplification. And here's the different thing that we did with these set of 5 is I wanted to look at a forecast. Now, there is a way for us to apply our sentiment analysis and our amplification as a forecast, and it's a credential we lay out in our data draw from an algorithm that basically pulls in data from social media primarily, and it gives us an analysis on how people are talking about a project. Nearpad was a good example. So what happened here is you've got sentiment in December at 68.34, and the amplification score in December at 69.47. Let's jump back to that slide real quick. So you can kind of see it right there, 69.47. So that automatically triggers me in saying, all right, we've got something that's on the move with December. What can it hold that in January? And January, it slid slightly down to 70.11 and 70.29 on the sentiment, but still very respectable. The fact that it's going up, I like this as an overall token. So this is a good example of how these will play out. So this is one of the reasons, as I said, once it hits the TM score, and it's a good one, meaning really about a 75 or greater, and I'll jump back to Token Metrics here just to show you on the ratings. Right here on the TM grade, this is what I'm looking at right here. This will give us our market cap rank over here, typical price changes, etc., trading signals. They have their own little element of bullish, bearish, etc. I don't really follow that part of it. I really dig down into the sentiment itself of the protocol and where it's going. So I'll go in and look for those particular projects, and this is where we've pulled them from. The next one I want to jump to is a project called Maha Dao. And Maha Dao is, again, another one of these projects you probably wouldn't have found, because this one specifically is going to be a MetaMask acquisition, meaning you're going to have to utilize Ethereum in this particular case. And let me just you can do this pretty simply. If you guys have not used this tool yet, it's a very easy tool to use. It jumps you to Etherscan. It'll give you the access to the contract. The contract is essentially how you're going to go in and get it on MetaMask. So right there is my contract. When I click that, I'll grab that copy. Then I'll move over to my MetaMask and attempt to buy that. In this particular case, I'm doing it with Ethereum, so you are going to pay some gas fees. So just be aware of that. So I want to talk about Maha Dao and jump to their website, and then we'll get into some of the elements around this. So they have this thing called an Altcoin, but the whole idea behind it, it's a concept of a kind of money that maintains its buying power regardless of where the market is going. Now, there's been a few projects out there that have tried to do this. The different thing that impressed me about this project was the team. And when I looked at the team, you've got Stephen Enamakel, who has been in blockchain before. You also have this guy right here, head of their marketing team, which is Gafor. He's also been in blockchain before. And I look for that around it. And then I start looking at who are the advisors and do I recognize any of them? Some of these people I don't recognize, but some of these people I do, and in reference to other projects that are jumping in and out of blockchain. The other aspect of this one is the fact that it is a DAO, and that's the other element that I've been looking at for 2022 as a theme to be watching very closely is decentralized autonomous organizations. These elements in blockchain, I think, are going to be a very big topic for 2022, so keep your eye on these. And I want to jump to their website again. First, non-depreciating currency, and you can see right here again 44,000 followers. But does that hold up? Does it really give us a full understanding of what's happening in that particular project and whether or not it's useful? In this particular case, I wanted to take a look at this one, and I'm going to go to the same thing with Maha. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Maha Dao. This is our CPI score on Maha. And you can also see what Token Metrics has done here with what their price prediction is versus their actual price. So they've got an actual price at 607, and it's increasing over a short period of time. On a 3-month cycle, we're looking at about a $7 token. We actually will craft these out when we're looking at these a little bit more tuned in when we go into our trading view and apply our indice from our CPI. That will give us a little bit better tracking on a token. Now, some ways that you can get access to that when we start dropping those kind of indice charts and things like on TradingView. And you've probably seen us do this with Bitcoin and a lot of the big altcoins, usually because there's enough trading volume that we can really track it and match our CPI indice over to what's happening in the charts. But the point is that you can jump into the diamond circle. So make sure and get into the diamond circle because it's free. You don't have to pay anything. You jump in. We drop data and content back to you guys in here. So you can click the link below and jump into that. But as you can see, Maha, this is another one that I am going to go in on. Now, what my strategy on most of these, and you'll see my buy rating at 7.3 on this one, my strategy on most of these is usually between $1,000 and $1,500. I don't put a lot of money in these small projects like this. But what happens is if these do move, and this will go into my high-risk portfolio, this will slot in there. The next time we do a high-risk portfolio, you'll see these 5 in there. And we'll see how they do. Some of them, if they're many or have similarities to what we did in our last cycle of Nabox, which just did unbelievable, like 2,000% gains. We did Black Eye Galaxy was a big winner. We also had Seek Protocol or Seek VR was in there. And then Stars, Mogul, if you haven't heard of all those have pumped and they've done their business. And that's great because that was the way and the model that I was looking at. Remember, these are just investments to me. In many cases, I don't fall in love with these tokens. Now, there may be a few that break out and I start going, wow, this is a project I really want to watch and see how it goes. I remember when Helium was in that stage and I really felt like this is one I could really attach to. And it has been one of those projects that I've really stayed close to. We've had Charles on a couple of times to talk about where Helium is going, and it also has kind of performed over a period of time. So it's done really well. So let's go into our next one here. We're going to try to get to some questions because I know you guys will probably have a ton around what are the best gems to be looking at. There's probably a lot that you want to look at. Put your questions in the chat. Make sure and hit the like button though. This is the one way that it helps the channel, and it's easy for you guys to do. If you have the love for the TechPath community, hit the like button. It helps us understand that these are the kind of videos that you like to see. All right, the other one I want to jump to is a project called Paribus. Now I want to jump over to the chart with Paribus. This one's a little different in the sense that Paribus has been, and I did a 3-month on this now, and again, remember, I'm looking for these movements where a token, let's go to the all-time just so you can kind of see where this kind of had its big move right here in October. Then it fell off. And then we have this little bit of a slide up and movement back into a positive and interesting characteristic of Paribus. Paribus is a DeFi project, so pretty straightforward. it's one of those projects that is looking at integration across a variety of different platforms. And I think that is something that there's a lot of these projects out there. But what I always kind of look to, again, is the difference in this particular scenario is the staking aspect of Paribus. And this one I like because it's going to start to evolve how DeFi really starts to utilize the staking element. Now, it's already been out there, but in most cases, you're going to yield farms, staking farms like Curve or something of that nature to essentially execute on these. Paribus is, in essence, that kind of project. So I want to also jump over to their Twitter. And again, we'll take a look at their community on Twitter. I think I had that one pulled up. Yeah, here we go. A little bit of a smaller community here, but the core key thing here is liquidity positions, their relationship to synthetic assets, and it's powered by Cardano. Now, I know a lot of you are probably looking at me and go, wait a minute, Paul, you're not a big lover of Cardano. Well, the point is that Cardano is not one of those projects that's going away. But if we see projects starting to build on top of Cardano, I'm always intrigued because Cardano and the code set that is required to develop on Cardano, being Haskell, it's a very interesting aspect of developers. And what that tells me is someone is really, really dedicated. And anytime you have really dedicated people, good things happen. So those are always worth a little bit of attention and also worth a little bit of a risk in something like what I want to do in some of the DeFi projects. Sometimes I get a little bit overweighted, and you should really do this on your portfolio all the time, is weight your portfolio. Don't get too heavy on metaverse and games. Don't get too heavy on the blue chips, ETH and Bitcoin. Don't get too heavy on these high risk. And also always remember DeFi, which is a big core of where the market is going, needs to have a position in your portfolio. It's just a good balanced portfolio. You want your risk, you want your moderates, you want your blue chips. It's like any other investment, class out there or asset class out there. Let's move over to another project, and this one, if I can pull it up, and let's pull it up right here. And I do want to give you guys the stats on Paribus real quick for our CPI, because this one is actually scoring. And again, another reason why I went ahead and said this might be something I want to really take a look at. Amplification forecast on this one and also sentiment is moving in the right direction. And I like this one because of the fact that it's going up so much since December, the last 30 days. So this one, in essence, and you can kind of see it in the chart, it started to move up a little bit. Granted, I think this is one of those that's probably in the process of going to either take a rise, depending on what the rest of the market does. Obviously, right now we're in a little bit of a correction again. But I think this is one of those projects that, again, DeFi, it's got the right kind of elements and it's got a dedicated team behind it. So it's one that I'm willing to go out and do a little bit of a risk on. And let's jump over to this project right here, which is a project called Saber. Now, Saber, you've heard me talk about this one before, and it's been and mainly because it had a nice run up here about 60 days ago. And we were in that run up during that first initial push. I owned Saber, sold it near the top, and jumped out. It was trading at about $1, I think, when I jumped out last time. Now it's down here at around 8 cents. So we've had a massive drop off on Saber. Is this a good time for us to take another look at it and see if there's some corrections, maybe some new partnerships and some elements going on? So I looked strictly at the TM score on Tokenmetrics. Then we jumped over here to what happened on our data on the CPI, and it aligned pretty well. In fact, we started to see a little bit of movement on our forecast here. So sentiment was still driving up from a 71 to a 73, and amplification actually had improved quite a bit. So this tells me a community is starting to form around Saber, maybe a little bit in the way that we see a lot of these early stage projects kind of pop and get moving. And also when there's a big news, issuance on some of these projects. So a cool one to do. Let me jump over here to Saber because I want to show you where it is on their cross-chain liquidity network. Again, Saber, another cross-chain, lots of these out there, but they do have a ton of partnerships in line. And I think anytime we see something that really is tied in so closely with what traders are really looking for around Solana and some of those platforms, these are big ones. And of course, this is the cool aspect for it. So I think the aspect when I, again, try to look at something and choose on what projects to jump into. Again, I'm always looking the layer ones if there's relationships like Cardano in this particular case with Saber, it's Solana. Those kind of scenarios really play into my decision process because in these, many times they're just undiscovered projects that many people maybe just did not know about. There's not a lot of use case or transactions on it yet, or maybe they're in the process of development. They're going to be able to release something out and start moving in the right direction. Again, Saber's social, this is a bigger audience, 63,000. Again, I think this is relevant to what's happening in Solana. So a big one here. Kind of curious, of the ones that I've talked about so far, are there any that you're invested in? And maybe let's do a quick poll on this. And I just want to ask, when you look at these, what are the elements that you guys use for identifying tokens? And what I mean by, let's do it by category. Are you looking for early stage tokens like this, these gems, in gaming as number one, in metaverse, number two, and in DeFi, number three? I'm just kind of curious as to where the interest lies on what kind of tokens you are looking for. What we've done here today is kind of spatter around with a lot of different elements, mainly what we've looked at. Again, I'm not always looking for just metaverse and gaming. I'm not always looking for blue chip altcoins, but I'll let kind of the market tell me where and what is happening. So if you can pop that poll in there, we'll give you guys the result here in a little bit. So again, just gaming, metaverse, or DeFi. I'm just kind of curious where you find your gems, where you're looking, because there's a lot of different tools in each one of those aspects. If you haven't done DeFi Llama, you should probably look at DeFi Llama. It's a great tool for any of the DeFi projects. Gives you all the liquidity, gives you a lot of the transaction data, all that kind of stuff getting out there. So again, like a Saber would be something that I would look at over there. The last one I want to jump to is a project called Spartan Protocol. Now this one is, you're going to look at this and say, geez, Paul, this is hot garbage. This one is definitely a project that is super high risk. Now we've got a little bit of manipulation going on right here, and I want to show you this right here. This is what got me interested in this particular token, is because there was a very quick movement on sentiment. Now I've seen this happen a couple of times in different tokens that we follow. Some tokens that you might recognize that have had quick movement on sentiment has been things like Ethereum. We've had projects like Solana, projects like Polygon that have had these quick movements. We've also had quick movements on things like Doge and other meme coin type scenarios that we track. But this one just drew my attention. Again, not any big reason other than the fact that it's on the Binance Smart Chain, which is another reason I jump into these. If anything that falls into BSC, I'm interested because I'll do some trading with BNB. And just to give you guys a little trickery that I do to get BNB so that I can trade on this, is there is a tool called Pionex. It's Pionex. Pionex is a bot trading platform, but it's also a spot trading platform too. And there's no KYC. It is registered in the United States, so you can get on it as an American. It's no big deal. The cool thing is you can buy some interesting tokens over there. You can get XRP over there. You can also buy a lot of the Binance Smart Chain on there and acquire it by utilizing BNB. So the way you'll move money into it is it's usually a tether transfer. So maybe you got Coinbase or you're a Voyager holder or Gemini, whatever. You've got some tether or you sell something. You can do it also through Litecoin because that's the lowest transaction fees. Send your Litecoin over to your wallet on Pionex. No fees, very low trading fees, by the way, too. We should probably do something on bot trading soon because it is a good tool. I do some bots in there. I usually do that in down markets like right now. Bot trading, we're probably going to start cycling back into some bot trading. But the cool thing is that you can get access to a lot of these Binance BSC projects, these Binance Smart Chain projects, because essentially it's kind of a mirror protocol to what is happening over on BNB, but you're using it through a US approved programs. So it's not like you're going into Binance, and like a lot of times if you sign up for Binance US, you can't get access to certain tokens. This is a little bit of a workaround, but it is not a KYC. You will have to transfer Tether or Litecoin in and then convert to Tether to buy. Or when you're moving money out, you're going to have to move Tether out. So Tether out whenever you decide to transact out of it, but it's a project. It's something I use. It's not financial advice, but I use it on an everyday basis, and it is a great tool. Now, the way that I could go in and buy Spartan Protocol is if you look again right here on CoinMarketCap. These are just very simple tool sets. You'll just jump right in here. You want to go in and grab that BSC scan address. That's interesting. Interesting there. I do want to get that address though. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll grab that address, and then I'll either try to go see if it's available on PineX, or I'll look at MetaMask in general, and then maybe look at something like a PancakeSwap or something of that nature to go in and acquire it. Or if I have to do it directly through the website or through the platform itself, that's another way you can acquire tokens, and then keep them in your MetaMask. Now remember, always when you're using MetaMask, we have a download guide on how to use MetaMask. If you're a Diamond Circle member, jump into it. We have a nice, huge report that our research team did on MetaMask, PancakeSwap, all these different kinds of tools that we use. It's free to you guys. Just sign up and then just start downloading the PDFs. They're good guides. And a lot of research time that has gone into that from our writers and researchers. But that's one of the ways that I will go about it. So as I've explained here, the process is somewhat simple, and it starts usually with token metrics and other research that we do internally. And then we'll double check it against our own data, which is the CPI. And then at that point, we start looking into the project itself. So you've got to identify them, then you start looking into the project, and then that's when we'll make a decision on investment. And then also what portfolio we're going to dump them into, whether it's a high risk, a moderate risk, or we like it and we want to keep it and put it into one of our nested portfolios for a little while. I know we got a lot of questions coming in. I'm kind of curious, did the come in, the chart, or excuse me, the poll? We may have it. The guys are pulling it in right now. All right, let's see here. Steve, can you close that, the minimized, got it right there. Still showing over the data. We have a new Switch team in today. Holiday is fun. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully, what are you guys doing on Bitcoin right now? Hit me up in the charts on that. Are you buying on the dip? I'm kind of curious. Just drop it into the side chat, and we'll get on that. I'll get back to this here in a second, because I think it's your sidebar is coming up. No big deal though. We'll get you that. I'll get you that response. Don't worry about it. I will get that response to you. All right, let's get over to some of the questions on where this is going, kind of some of the projects that we like. Terry Ball, is HBAR a good project? We have had Vance on from HBAR, and I would suggest to you, it looks like we have our data coming in. All right, so looks like, oh wow, this is much closer than I thought. DeFi, 38% of you, we had 200 votes. 38% of you said DeFi is where you were looking for projects. 36% of you said metaverse, and 25 said gaming. So that's about 51% or 60, 56% on gaming and DeFi. Great. All right. So that's good. So that's a good sprinkle of variety. And as I said, that's what you want to do in your portfolios. It's what we do, and it's worked great, is good diversification, and don't get too heavy in any one particular category, because you can get hurt in some of those kind of scenarios. So just remember, not financial advice. But anyway, back to your question here on HBAR, Terry. So HBAR, I like HBAR, and I've owned it. I don't own it currently in my portfolio. I wish I had held it a little longer, but we had a really good conversation with their CEO, Vance. Can't remember his last name. Great guy out of Texas. Had a lot to say about kind of the future of where HBAR was going. And at the time, I just wasn't and had not done enough research on what HBAR Hedera is trying to do. Now I feel a little bit crazy because I should have really taken the time. Sometimes, though, we just get so much coming in, it's tough to kind of keep up with all the changes that are happening in all these big tokens. But I would own it today if I could buy or get in at the right purchase price. Let me look and see where H bar is right now, and just say H bar on Hedera. All right, so it's diving right now, but it's kind of perked up a little bit over the last 3 months or last 1 month. But this actually might be a good time for a purchase on this because it's trading at 28 cents. And there has been some recent movement. They also mentioned that they were coming into the metaverse. So thank you for mentioning that, Terry. I might go actually get back into HBAR on that very topic. See, I learn stuff from you guys sometimes, and I should be paying attention to some of these projects that as I said, the flow of these come in so much. All right, so let's get going. Terrence Evans, thought on Thorchain. Thorchain is another one that I like, and again, Thorchain I've purchased and sold, made some money on Thorchain. It was a good project for us. Again, it just, you can only go into so many. Would I recommend it if somebody wasn't necessarily in that category or maybe in that particular style of project? Thorchain would probably be one of the ones I would jump into. Yeah. All right. So Satpal Singh, share your view on Chain Guardian. So Chain Guardian we've talked about and actually reported on the show. We have it in our top 20 metaverse games and do like it, and still I would consider it, and I do own it. And I would consider that still as a hold right now, even though we are seeing a lot of movement right now in the metaverse gaming sector. Remember, if you're not taking profits, and I know there's a handful of games out there that you probably just wouldn't sell right now. Maybe you wouldn't sell Gala, maybe you wouldn't sell Star Atlas, or maybe you would, don't know. But some of these projects like Place Wars is a good example of mine. I'm kind of riding it up and down, and I kind of refer to that a little bit about what I see with Chain Guardians is, if once you get into a game and you really appreciate what the founders or the team is doing, then you kind of understand where the release cycles are going, and that's very important in gaming, is these key releases. So like for Place Wars, it's Placidonia. For Chain Guardians, some of the projects that they're releasing, I see more and more moving toward digital assets. If we see digital assets or staking come up in any of these projects, I'm always interested in holding in. We got a super chat coming in from Clever Name. Thoughts on investing in the underlying crypto of a company at the top of the VC recently invested in, i.e. 16Z, A16. All right, so A16, interesting. All right, so if A16 is in the project, from the way I read this, do you jump in and follow the money? We do it all the time. It depends on how early of a stage. If this is on the open market, and it's public, then the likelihood is I would be cautious depending on what kind of project it is. I know you're probably not dropping the project here, but let's just assume it's a gaming project, and we'll give you an example. If it's a gaming project and A16Z, which is typically investing in gaming companies right now, metaverse, I would probably wait for the fly down. Don't get it on the front end of a token release, because you are going to get the bots hitting that. It's going to nail it, and it's just going to go parabolic. And then you want the backside. That's where you want to dive in if you like the project. A16Z is in it for the long term, so you want to ride with them. And at that point, maybe it's 2 weeks, 2 months after that has gone out there, and you wait for it to take that dive. Buy it in its heat of the summer kind of thing, when it's really sweaty and red. Get it then, and then ride it on out with A16Z and watch what's happening with the partnerships. Because remember, smart money in these projects usually bring in partnerships, collaboration that causes movement in the markets. So price action begins. All right, let's get in here to, could you please provide info on any upcoming ICO IDO for 2022? Caught my attention. We should probably do a show specifically on this. Thank you very much for that one, guys. Faster Indian, I like that name. We should probably do a show on that, just on IDO and ICO projects that are pre-sale, because there are some that you can, I know we get pitched a lot from projects that are out there. We're trying to bring in more projects so that we can start maybe offering up those placements and positions to our Diamond Circle members. So But this would be a good point for many of you guys who are looking for that level of investment. So good idea. What DeFi play to earn games will have a good run in 22? Man, we've had so many DeFi play to earn GameFi projects in our show in the last few weeks. You've got to go back and check all those videos. I don't want to dive into all of those, but I mean any of those that are moving, whether it's things just in general. If you look at digital assets of what's happening, if you look at what's like on Big Time, look at Star Atlas for guilds. If you look at Axie for staking, and we've talked about Axie, we're going to do a video on Axie and the staking process because that'll blow your mind when you get into Axie. And if you're into Axie in a big way, you should be staking your Axie. And we'll show you some ways to do that in an upcoming video. Man, great. Thank you, Wilco, for a big super chat. Do you think buying today is a good idea, or will the market continue to dip? We're going to do another video, and I'm going to give you guys just a Bitcoin, a sneak peek on something, if I can pull it up in time for you. There is a cool tool that, as you guys know, we do. All that's BNB. Let me pull up my Bitcoin chart. Hang on. Bear with me here on BTC. Because I want to answer this for him. He's got a good point here, and that is something we've talked about. All right, so this is the Bitcoin chart right now, and we're watching it live. And I want to kind of show you something that this is where our indices, for the most part, do really well. So this big light purple area is our indice on mapping Bitcoin. So you can kind of see it picked the bottom right here at where we are right now at 47. I'm always worried because we got a little bit of a green candle bumping literally right off of our indice bottom right now, and it looks like it could be coming back. So we could be seeing the bottom. So answering your question, if you are a dollar cost average person, that's what I do. I will probably go in and snap up a little Bitcoin right now, just in this little dip at the 47.8, because I see a little bit of a move here. I kind of was sad for a lot of people that were longing Bitcoin yesterday and the day before, because we had already predicted this down move that we're seeing right now. But it looks like we might get a green candle finally bouncing off. Now we'll see how it closes out in the next 4 hour. I think we're on the 4 hour. Yeah, we're on the 4 hour. Let me look at Market Cipher real quick on the indice. This is another tool we use. And if you guys are not using Market Cipher, jump over to their website. Tell CryptoFace we said hello. I'm always looking for movement here on Market Cipher. Typically, I'm trying to pick these green dots because this will align with these kind of growth modes. We probably should bring our analyst back in, Evan Aldo, because he has a great tool set for Market Cipher trading. I'm going to bring Evan in next week after the holidays. We'll do a recovery analysis on Bitcoin because I think we're going to see a little bit of a recovery here on Bitcoin soon. And I'll show you I'll have Evan show you some really cool tools of how to read Market Cipher when you're using TradingView and those kind of things. So, and again, all this stuff plays into picking the early coins, getting into these gems, taking a little bit of a risk when the markets are down, because these are the times to get these super good value products. Why we wanted to do this video today. All right, a couple of super chats. Thoughts on Kalau? I don't have that one, but I do know a lot about Avalanche. Let me look into that one for you, JB, because we are a big proponent of Avalanche. We're going to have John Wu back on the show, I think next week. So be on the lookout for that one. Last super chat came in. Thank you so much for that last super chat. Throw that on the screen, Chris, if you can get to it. If not, but anyway, thanks a lot for the super chats today, guys. Really appreciate all the work and information you guys help us with in understanding projects, ways that you're investing. You're pitching ideas back to us, which I love it. Thank you for bringing back HBAR to my attention. Definitely a good one. Guys, if you're listening in over on the podcast, thank you so much for the kudos over there. But this is the place. This is the place that you're going to get all the information that you are not going to get on the podcast. And it is where you're going to jump into the Diamond Circle, get all the kind of cool tools we have along with some of our indices and our insights. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, it's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.